So we've come to part 2 of the conspiracy theories, and today's one I want to go into more into the part that is the most talked about quite a bit. Do aliens exist? Now again, this is a conspiracy theory, and yeah, it is just a theory. So obviously, many years been channeling, been meditation, doing it, and I always ask the simple question that I always find funny because I always get the bloody answer to it anyway. Aliens exist? Yes, there is loads. In the meditation, to the conspiracy theory that the meditation is purely connecting to source. Source tells, yes, there is hundreds of races, but there is some major players. So think of it like a poker table. There's some very big major players. Some are deceive, you know what I'm saying. The other question was, obviously, I know there is. I always like to ask source it as well. They get sick of it eventually. They go, you know it is, so stop asking that question. Well, I always say to them, I say, well, if the races, how long they've been here? They say millions of years. Millions and millions and millions of years. I mean, wow, okay. So when I went into channeling again, I asked the source, I said, do humans have man-made UFOs? And they said, yep, taking the technology, you're taking it way a long time ago, and they've used it. They also used old technology, which we think is today's brand new technology, but they did it in the Tartarian era. There was so much more, and they kept saying about red mercury powering up loads of electrical items, and for some reason they kept saying about using it for anti-gravity. Now, I couldn't understand it myself, but can you buy red mercury? No, you cannot. So, very interesting, wonder why. So there's loads of different things. I said, obviously, the ancient pyramids, we know. I said, I know for a fact that is aliens. And they went, yep, aliens are there. And they still are there, but very deep under, in amongst the tunnels. Okay, but most of them have buggered off back up into the universe. So, anyway, I asked them that, do we live in like a dome of the Earth as well? And they said, not a dome as such, but the Earth is not flat, but it's not round neither. They sort of showed it me like an oval. And I just said, I'm not really interested. I don't give a shit, to be honest. If it's flat or round oval, I could not give a crap. All I know is that what feels right for me is right for me. The energies, everything like that, just said confirm. It said, you know what it is. So yeah, so prepare obviously the truth. What's called? So I was like, okay, I'm not meant to know the full details now in this meditation. I'm meant to know a bit later on. So obviously we know aliens exist. There's many different races. There is also man-made. I said, how did the human race come about? I said it wasn't evolution, bumming monkeys, and they evolved. I went, nope. I said you're actually a science experiment of alien races. I went, right. I said, is it typical of them stories that you hear about the Anunnaki? They turned around and said, yep, but mixed in with others, and even some of the greys are man-made as well. And I thought, fucking hell, that don't surprise me neither. They said there is a black market for the UFO. I went, yep, don't surprise me neither. There's a black market for fucking everything. And they turned around and said that in actual fact, a lot of the governments have got bases and alliances, and if you think of it, a contract of alliance with many different races. But they don't want you to know, because if the people knew, their society would crash, and what they have in standing would fall. Society would collapse. And it would bring on a new era where it'd be like they'll have to come back, and they are coming back. I did ask them, are they coming back? And they said yes, in the next couple of years. They said between 2025 all the way to 2028, there's going to be a load coming back more. So obviously, I turned around to them, I said, okay. I said, on that night, I was in the middle of nowhere at Oak Raven. I said, I seen a triangle, points like that. Start. I said, I seen that flash, and I seen a beam of light that was not a meteorite. I could tell you that now. People are going to say, oh, it's a meteorite. No, was it fuck? It was a flash of light within the triangle of stars. I've always said that triangle of stars is not what we think it is. Triangle of stars, almighty flash, straight through. And they said it's a gateway. So then I couldn't help myself and say, well, what is Skinwalker Ranch? And they actually said deep in below, that is also in the tunnels. It's also part of an alien underground, like the underground base type of thing. They use that to hide themselves as well, but it's also another communication bubble. And they also said that a lot of the UFOs go there to experiment as well. So I was like, okay, very interesting, very interesting. They said that the signals they communicate in that part, there is a secret hidden. I wouldn't say like a base as such, but like a think of it like like one of these mobile huts type of thing. They said the only way we can explain it to you, think of it as a mobile hut. So there is loads of energy there in the UFOs, and they even turned around and said that most of the the black market people know about it as well. So I was like, very interesting, very, very interesting from source. I turned around to him, I said, okay, I said, well, if it's the black market, obviously regarding to the UFO and everything like that, I said, to be fair, I said, I'm not doing this to show off or anything like that, I said, I just wanted to share the information. And I said, that is correct. I said, this is the information that we allow you to share, because there is some information I know of that I can't expose, and the information that I've been given from source that I'm not allowed to expose because it would be a threat to me and my family, so I can't do that. But the simple ones in this conspiracy theory, that again, it's all theory, it's all theological, so again, meditations and many different things, so it's all theory, not proven evidence. But yeah, so there is some stuff. I said to him, the one time, I said, it was very interesting, actually, very interesting. I turned around, I said, when I was going through a mental health crisis, I said I was obviously trying to find something new. I said, I've always said for years, this planet is not my home. I don't feel like I belong here, and I feel like my home is, I don't know why I can just point it in that direction. Everywhere I go, that's my home, right there. I can feel it, but it's like far into the galaxy, very far. And I asked Source one day, I said, yep, you're not from here, you're a star. Well, they didn't call it a star child, they just said, you are a child of the universe. Right, okay. And then when I met Alex Petrov, it made sense of a star child. So they turned around to me and said, your consciousness, when you're in a good mood and that you relax and you connect, your consciousness range is very high for a human. And I was like, okay. I said, thank you very much. But they said you need to control your emotions. So I went, okay, fair enough. But I turned around and said, why am I here? And they said, because you're here to help others upon their journey. I said, well, is that through psychic readings, mediumship? And they said, yes, but not just that, but to also guide them on their true path. I went, okay. I said, but I said, well, what about this entity that came to me when I was having a bad spell of life? And they turned around and said, this entity was not, as you so-called ghosts and stuff like that, actually said it was another dimensional being that came to you to connect to you, and to they said it did something to me. Now, I must admit, my wife very soon after that said, you either pack your act up or I'm leaving you, because I needed that hard love, because I was so pity me, stuff like that. So eventually after that, I had sleep paralysis, and in that moment when that entity came, I'll always remember it, came to the door. And it wasn't shaped like a human. That's the one thing I gotta say. It wasn't a big head or anything like that. But you could tell that was not a spirit of a human type of thing. I always remember it was fully black, blacker than black. Like the abyss. Came in, bottom of the bed, came down, and I could also remember looking at it like this, going, oh my god, no, look, oh, and then I remember looking at me like this, and it was like as if it was trying to telepathically link to me, and because I was going, no. And then I was like, Kaylee, in my head I was going, Kaylee, wait. I was trying to go, wait the fuck up, there's something fucking in the house. And I couldn't move. I always remember I was froze solid. I was wide awake, and I was froze solid, and I felt I was put under some, like, it was like, the only way I can describe it was like a spell, or trance. It was like something was holding me down, I couldn't move, all I could be was consciously alert. And I always remember this entity just looking at me, looking down at me like this, and it slightly leaned in a bit, boom, like that. All of a sudden, I shut my eyes, no. I opened my eyes again, gone completely. But the room was different, the energy was different. And so I asked the source, I said, who was that? And they kept saying, it's a different dimensional being that needed to come into your life. So I said, okay, if it needs to come into my life, have I connected to it before? They went, no, this entity chose to connect to you on that day, on that night. So I went, fucking hell. And I felt like as if there was something above me as well, but I couldn't see it. I just felt the energy. And they said, this entity is going to help you. And I thought, oh, like spirit guides or something like that. And they went, nope, just a different dimensional being. They kept saying you was crying that much, you was asking for help, but you were sending out intentions through consciousness on a high consciousness level, sending out for help. This entity came in and tried to help you. As much as it looked scary and everything like that, it wasn't evil, it wasn't negative, it was just trying to help you get past this part of your life. I was like, alright. I said, have I connected to it again? They said, not really, but you have recently. I went, okay. I said, could this entity be called Asgroth? And they said, more or less, yes. And I went, okay, so can I see this entity? He said, no. They said, it's more of an energy ball and more of an energy entity. I said, does this entity is willing to tell me and talk to me and come forwards to help the human race? They went, no, not really. It came forwards to help you. I was okay. I said, well, can we help people? Can we help living men and women? And they said, well, that's where this entity came in, is helping you to help them. I thought, oh, very interesting, very interesting. So I thought, okay. So I asked, is that a different dimensional being? Is that a different alien? Is that what's called? I said, it's not an alien. It's not an alien what you humans would call as a typical alien, but it's definitely a different dimensional being. And I went, okay. I said, okay. I said, is it a spirit? They went, we don't call them spirits, we just call it energy. And I was like, okay. I was like, very, very interesting. I turned around and said, God is real. And they said, God is as real as you are. And I said, well, then you just said real. I said, yeah, God is as real as you are. You are God. And I went, but how can I be God of my reality if I can't change anybody else? They went, they went, the one, all becomes one. And the one becomes all. And I said, you're here to experience this earth as the consciousness of the universe. They said, your God is not a man with a white beard, blah, blah, blah. They said, the God that you believe in is the energy, the source of the universe. I said, yes, because the universe created everything. I said, yes, that is the energy. So I said, what is it? I said, it's not obviously a man in a white beard. I went, nope, just a ball of energy. But it's the most magnificent ball of energy you'll ever meet. And they said, when you cross over, you will understand it, and you will understand it even more and connect back to it fully. And I went, wow, how fucking amazing is that? So then in the end I said, there's so many races in the universe. I said, obviously I know there's aliens. I know there is. They're on this planet, they're here, they're in broad daylight. They went, finally you're listening. And they said, the only one thing is your consciousness level can reach to an extreme level to the point where you could even separate yourself from your body permanently. And I went, I said, I don't feel ready for that yet, because that's death. But I said, it's not death. You have a choice to stay here. They said, but if you had enough, you can truly disconnect in meditation. I thought, bloody hell. So I said, it's like the Matrix. I said, it is like it, but not what the Matrix portrays it as. I said, it is very close to it. So I was like, oh, bloody hell. So I said, is this really a hologram? They said, is it a hologram if it feels real? I said, anything can feel real. And they said, They said, so it's your perception that makes it real. I went, very interesting, very interesting. So I said, obviously, if I want to connect to an alien or connect to a ship or whatever, they said, all you've got to do is send your intentions out there as if you're like shooting a firework, but the firework never bangs. The rocket carries on and it's infinity. If you send on a frequency and a vibration up there, and you send your energies out there to connect, you will see them fly across. You will see them make contact. But they said it's only deep trance and deep meditation that you truly connect and truly be on par with them, if you want to put it that way. In communication, they telepathically is that we have the capability of doing it, but they do not. But they do not stop you. It's everything around you that stops you. So I was like, fucking hell, this is brilliant. So I'm hoping to get some channeling doing soon, because I feel like I need to. And I'm going to put some videos up of it as well. Like I said, this is going to be a bit of a mixture of Hampan and spiritual. So again, spiritual is not just about following religion. Being spiritual is about being open-minded. So obviously this is my conspiracy theory, UFO, UFOlogy, and I personally, I would say that is an entity from a different dimension. It feels right. I wouldn't say it's an alien with the blue flashing lights outside the windows that come in the ship or anything like that. I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I've witnessed an alien portal, I've witnessed light speed. It was not a meteor. I'm telling you now, I've seen it with the clear of my eyes. That was like warp speed. It really was. It was incredible. But it's always from that triangle in the sky, the 3 points. Sit there if you can on a night, get the fire going, sit there and watch it out in the countryside, and you will see what I'm on about. And they were saying, like, you know, I was one thing before I go. I asked, does obviously the government conceal a lot of UFO travel at night, classing it as meteorites? And they said, you know what? They said, you do see meteorites, but there's more UFO ships flying across the universe that are told they're they're meteorites, and they're actually not. They are what's it called, above. But I said, is there loads of ships above us? You know, like say if I travel from here to, like, I don't know, say down south, they said, yep, they're very well disguised with great technology. We're talking hundreds of thousands of years advanced technology than what the human race has. But it's a shame that the human race imprisons itself. So, well, that fucking surprise you. Well, sorry it's a long one, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more, let me know what you want to talk about. If you have any questions for the entity that I connect to in deep meditation, deep trance, I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's my higher self. I don't know if it's an entity from the universe. You know, for me, it feels like I connect to the universe, and the consciousness level is unbound. So I will. There's 2 ways of doing channeling. I can go into deep channeling when they take over me, or I can go into light channeling, so I can hear the voices and I can relay it back. So yeah, very interesting, very interesting. But if you've got any questions or anything like that, let me know. I will try and get me and my best mate to do it. We will talk. We will go through and go from there. So yeah, so I'll catch you in a bit, guys.